Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller. Big day today because not only do we have Drake taking on Illinois State at the Knapp Center, where I'll be at, we have some great games in the Missouri Valley as a whole, had a couple of good ones last night, and then just overall in the college basketball landscape, and especially here in the state of Iowa, I don't know if there's a bigger game on today than Iowa State taking on Kansas. You have number 9 Kansas coming into Hilton Coliseum, which is an amazing atmosphere of college basketball, sports in general, taking on number 2 Iowa State. They've just gotten in to their highest ranking ever as a school at number 2. So much to get into and so little time it feels like. But so everyone, welcome to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller. You can go ahead, follow us, like us, subscribe to us, comment at us on all social media platforms. This is on Monday through Fridays, usually around 2 o'clock. We have coaches interviews, players interviews, broadcaster interviews, everything here on the show that focuses on Drake, the Missouri Valley, and just sports in general. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So welcome. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And let's just get into this thing. So like we said, busy day today. Starting off with the game I'll be at, which is Illinois State at Drake today at the Knapp Center. 8 o'clock tip, late tip, but that's okay. And we're right now seeing a Missouri Valley that is wide open. Right now, 8 teams within 1 to 2 games of first place. You have Bradley in first place still, but Drake is right there behind them. You have Murray State that has just charged into the new year. You still have a UIC team that is very talented offensively, a Belmont team that is really efficient and could be dangerous to some big teams like Drake, Bradley. An Indiana State team that, man, they just feel like they're right there. They're really close to figuring everything out, but have dropped a couple lately. They take on Bradley tonight in a rematch of what was so far the best regular season game in the Valley. And it's just anyone's conference. And that's what we want come this time of the year, where we see these teams taking on each other and you're seeing packed home courts and just the atmospheres and different atmospheres they bring. So, like we said, 8 teams of the 12 within a 1 to 2 game stretch of first place. So, while there have been factors Ben McCollum has needed to adjust offensively, what has been so impressive has been the consistency on the defensive end. So when talking about this Drake team, yes, there's been stuff Ben McCollum has had to adjust offensively because we know the offense isn't the best, could be a lot better. But the defensive consistency from this team has been real impressive. You have a Drake defense that is second in the country in scoring defense, holding opponents to only 57 points a game. And then they've held 11 of their 16 opponents this year to their season lows. And that's including teams like Miami, teams like Vanderbilt, FAU. And it includes 4 of the 6 Missouri Valley teams they've played. They've held them to their season lows. And I think that just speaks to the aggressiveness, the physicality, and the strategy that Ben McCollum and his group of coaches have brought to the table here in Des Moines. And this Drake team, again, the slow starts and kind of the issues offensively can be real concerning at times, but you know they're never out of it because of their ability to cause turnovers, because their ability to go on runs. They have good shooters. They have aggressive playmakers. And if Bennett Sturts and the main guys like Mascari, Cam Mania, if he can get out of this funk and be able to be aggressive within 2 feet of the hoop like he has been throughout the season, man, this team is right there. This team is right there. But offensively, there's just been some issues. Defensively, though, consistency, aggressiveness, and just clean, too. I mean, watch tonight against Illinois State. You have Bennett Sturtz, who has been the main guy, the go-to guy, offensively and defensively for Drake all season long. But watch how Mitch Muscari has been playing a lot better on defense. It's like he's seeing the passing lanes a lot better, a lot more tip balls, a lot more, issues with point guards trying to get passes into the other shooting guards that he's guarding. And some of the shooting guards have been some of the best in the conference he's going up against. But Mitch has played a lot better defensively. You have Tavion Banks coming off the bench, who has been a beast. Howard, who's been coming off the bench, who has been absolutely a spark plug offensively, but defensively he's right there too. But his main goal, I think, is get into fast break opportunities and crash the glass, which he has done. And he's done that to, I don't want to say perfection, but it's real damn close. So you have guys like that coming off the bench, and McCollum hasn't been dealt a 100% lineup. You have Isaiah Jackson still kind of in and out of the starting lineup. I find it interesting that he puts Isaiah Jackson in the starting role. Maybe it's just like every game day, Isaiah Jackson feels good, and then after a few laps up and down the court, his left ankle just is in too much pain, and they have to take him out. So it'll be interesting if Isaiah plays tonight in the starting role, because in the last game, you had Isaiah Jackson go in for a bit, for about 6 minutes, and then he was out the rest of the game. Did not show up at all in the second half, was on the medical bike and behind the bench. So he hasn't been dealt a healthy lineup, and he is able to see what has been going wrong, and he's been able to try to fix it by plugging in guys like Isaiah Howard. Combs, who comes in for Isaiah Jackson off the bench, has been really impressive. Both Howard and Combs, when they came off the bench, I want to say it was against UIC earlier in the year, you just saw two guys still trying to figure out the offense, still trying to figure out their spot. And after a couple of weeks, these two guys have really, really been some consistent ball players for the Drake Bulldogs. Combs has been getting to the back of the hoop. He's been diving into the paint. He's not making any mistakes with his passes, not causing a lot of turnovers. He's been really impressive. And then we've always talked about Isaiah Howard and what he's able to do. But tonight, nevertheless, with Drake's talented offense, is going to be, or talented defense, I apologize, is going to be a test. Illinois State is second in the conference in field goal percentage, nearly shooting 50%. And 3-point percentage, they're first in the Valley at 40%. So that is going to cause some issues for the Drake Bulldogs. Now, Drake's perimeter defense has been strong all year. Like we said, you have Sturtz up there. Mitch has been playing a lot better. Isaiah Howard, Tavion Banks, they can go out there and guard the perimeter. Inside, those are going to be some issues. So let's get into kind of the big men, and let's get into just what we've seen from Illinois State, the Redbirds. Illinois State coming into the Knapp Center tonight, 10-7, 2-4 in the Missouri Valley, lost 2 straight, 18-point loss to Evansville, and then lost by 1 to UNI, where we saw UNI make a layup, Titan Anderson go coast to coast and lay it in for the 1-point victory in a battle. That was a great game to watch. So 2 very different losses. You have a blowout loss to an okay Valley team, kind of bottom tier Valley team. And then you have a 1-point loss at home to a team you should have beat, but a really good team in the UNI Panthers. So they're still trying to figure things out. But the Redbirds are led by, I think, one of the most improved big men in the Missouri Valley Conference. And that is sophomore Chase Walker. He's 6'9", 275. You can't miss him on the court. But Chase Walker, he only played 17 games a year ago, thought about redshirting his freshman year. He only averaged 3 points in about 7 minutes of game time, but continued to play his freshman year. And during that time, I think his best game was against Evansville, where he broke the freshman record for most consecutive free throws made, where he went 8 of 8 at the line. Kind of unheard of from a big man. But now, Chase Walker, he's starting, leads the team with 14 points per game, 6 rebounds a game. 85% of his rebounds have been on the offensive glass, too. So he's getting his team extra possessions. And what I love most about his game is Walker's ability to be so efficient. From the field, he's shooting 58%. He's 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. So he doesn't shoot the 3 ball a lot, but he can. And then at the free throw line, he is 80%. He's jumped that number. He shot 74% his freshman year, and he's jumped that number up to 80% now. And he's a big man that could cause some big issues for the Drake Bulldogs tonight. He's talented on defense. He's a big dominating figure. They look to him, and he can get it done in multiple ways. He can shoot it from about 12 to 15 feet, but he also can post you up and put in some work. So guys like Nate Ferguson coming off the bench is going to be dealt with a handful. Cam Manyow, this is going to be a challenge. Abreu is going to need to step up on defense. Abreu, I don't think I've seen Abreu have to really go up against a post player like this yet. And now he's gone up against some really good guys. I mean, Kansas State had 2 7-footers, but they didn't use them like traditional post players. And I think this is going to be a good test because against Bradley, who has some of the best big men in the league, they spread them out. And I think you're going to see Walker try to get his in the paint. I think you're going to see them really funnel that ball through Walker. But you look at Illinois State, you look at their box scores, it feels like every other game is a different person leading in points per game. So, they are able to adjust and take what defenses are giving them and put it into different players' hands. So tonight, it's going to be a huge factor that Drake crashes the glass, that they continue to get production from their bench, and just take advantage of Illinois State's perimeter defense. It's been tough for Drake to hit the 3 ball lately, but that is a main factor, I think, going into tonight. Because Illinois State, the Redbirds, they don't have a great defense. And especially on the perimeter. Lately, they're allowing 8 threes a game. And this is a Drake team that makes around 6 a game. But they haven't been efficient. I hope that changes tonight. I hope we see Mitch go off. And I'm excited to see what McCollum is able to change offensively. I liked when he changed last game where he had guys like Combs and when Jackson was in, bring up the ball, because that was just allowing Sturtz more motion and not having to direct traffic. He was able to get backdoor cuts. He was able to get some spacing out on the wings. And so I'm excited to see what he does now for Mitch, because Mitch is such a talented 3-point shooter, but he's getting the ball with about 2 seconds left on the shot clock. He's having to heave up shots near the coach's box on each side of the wing. And I'm excited to see if he tries double screens, slip screens, what he can do to really put pressure on defenses on the perimeter. Because, man, when Drake can hit the three ball, we saw it against Kansas State and against Bradley in the second half. When this team is able to cause some issues on the perimeter, it just opens up their pick and roll lanes. That is their bread and butter. So tonight, you have Illinois State, Drake, tip off at 8. Make sure to follow along on social media for coaches' interviews, player interviews afterwards. But my keys for Drake to win this one. Like we said, put pressure on the perimeter. Illinois State allows 8 3-pointers a game from their opponents. Let's go put up 10. And rebounding. Rebounding may be my number one. I have it in at number 2. Drake 11th in the Missouri Valley Conference in rebounds per game. Out of 12 teams, they're only hauling in around 32 a game. Their rebounding defense is fairly good, kind of middle of the pack. They're only allowing about 28 rebounds from their opponents, so they are usually out-rebounding their opponents. But against teams like Bradley, it was tougher. They were able to out-rebound Bradley, but it was a battle, and that was one of the main reasons I think they ended up winning in Peoria. But against Murray State, it was a challenge, and I think tonight with guys like Chase Walker in the paint, it's going to be a real challenge, and it's going to be a real factor that Drake has to crash the glass. Isaiah Howard's been great off the bench. Need more from Cam Manyow and Abreu on the defensive and offensive glass. You know, if we're going to be trying to get 10 threes in tonight, there's going to be more shots from the perimeter, boxing out and getting those offensive rebounds and extra chances. You get an offensive rebound, Mitch Muscari is more than likely probably going to be open. You can pop it out to him. So that is going to be a huge factor. And then just continue production from the bench. I think that's the main factor for any game moving forward now for the Drake Bulldogs. Back-to-back games where they put up 20-plus points. You have Isaiah Howard, who prior to Murray State only had 12 total points and now has put up, I think, 20 points in his last 2 games, or is averaging about 8 points a game. And then Tavion Banks has a career night against Bradley. You also have guys like Combs coming in and being a real factor, and they may not score a lot, but Combs and Ferguson, they've been good coming off the bench. And Ferguson just brings that veteranship to a team that has experience and championship level experience, but just has that, he knows what this valley brings. And I think the players do look to him sometimes for some advice. So those are my keys to the game for Drake and Illinois State. Like I said, I'll be at that game. Really excited to be back in the Knapp Center and just getting back into the groove and talking to players. It feels like it's been way too long. And it was just Saturday that Drake played Evansville in the Knapp Center. But I'm excited. I love it. And then tomorrow I have Drake women's basketball at the Knapp Center. And then Saturday, again, more Drake basketball. I love it. I love it. I've always wanted to, I remember as a kindergartner, they were like, come up to the front of the class and ask what you want to do for a living. And you had people go up there and they're like, I want to be a doctor. And you're like, oh, that's nice. I want to be a president. Oh, cool. And then I went up there and I was like, I want to be able to get paid to talk sports and watch sports. I want my biggest complaint to be like, oh, damn, I have to watch basketball tonight. So, I mean, living the dream. Some really good Missouri Valley Conference games. There are some really good Missouri Valley Conference games tonight. You have the battle at the bottom of Southern Illinois at Missouri State. Southern Illinois 1-5 in the Missouri Valley, while you have Missouri State still looking for that first victory. Missouri State, I think I should have written this down. They're leaving the Missouri Valley Conference, if you don't know that. Right now, it is not a great farewell tour for these Bears. 0-6 in the conference right now, still looking for that victory. I do kind of lean on the Bears tonight, though. I think they get it done against a team that has also struggled very similar to them. Missouri State plays a good defensive style. It's just they don't have depth. So you get in foul trouble or you just get tired, like what happened when they played Bradley close on the road, is then teams just take advantage. And I think this Missouri State team gets their first victory at home against the Salukis. I think they get it done. I'm going to lean on that defense and try to ignore the red flags of depth issues. As a Drake Bulldog fan, sometimes you can ignore those red flags. And Missouri State, I think, gets it done. You also have, I think, the game of the night between two offenses in the Valley that have been red hot, and you have UIC that is still trying to just get a consistent production out of their team. You have Murray State, who has been unbelievable. So the Racers have won 3 straight, very efficient offense. I mean, going into that Drake game, they had only shot over 50% twice throughout the whole start of the season. And now, after that Drake victory in Des Moines, they have shot over 50% in every game. They have just been so efficient. They're moving the ball around, and then they're just heaving it from the three-point line, and they've been making them. The Racers have been so good offensively. I don't know what Prohm said to them into the new year that just changed this team around, but they are figuring things out. And they're also being really aggressive defensively, which hasn't always been Prohm's style. He has not always been a great defensive coach. He's had some great defensive teams. I mean, us here in Iowa know what he was able to do in his 2 Big 12 titles. But it was usually the offense. You were usually in awe of what he was doing in his offensive production. And then you're always worried about Prohm, about his adjustments, what he was able to do. You know, if things weren't going right, would he be able to right the wrongs? And so far, if you're a Racers fan, you cannot be more happy with how this season has gone to start January, how conference play has gone. Right now, you're right in the thick of it. You're 2 games out of teams like Bradley. You've already beat Drake. You already beat UNI. At UNI too. You beat Drake and UNI both in hostile environments. So you have Murray State on the road against UIC, who's coming off of a 1-point loss versus Bradley in an offensive battle. And I like Murray State to win this one because they just have a little, I think, better defense than UIC. UIC still has size advantage and can stretch the floor with the bigs, which will cause issues for the Racers. But I think in a close game, I'm going with the red-hot team, and that is Murray State. Murray State has just been on a different level come January. So you have the game of the night, Murray State at UIC. That game on ESPN Plus as well. You have both Southern Illinois and Murray State. I should make sure I have this down for you. The time of the tip-off. I want to make sure I get it right because in my head, I'm thinking right now it is at 6 o'clock. But I just want to double-check and make sure for you. You have 6 o'clock for Southern Illinois and Missouri State, and 6 o'clock for Southern Illinois, Missouri State, 7 o'clock for Murray State and UIC. And 7 o'clock as well for a rematch of the best game of the regular season in the Missouri Valley so far. A game that went into overtime in the house that Bird built. And that is Indiana State taking on Bradley on the road in Peoria. These two teams met up just a few weeks ago and battled it out. And game one, Bradley won by 1 thanks to Duke Dean late in overtime. And I think we know what Bradley's going to bring. They're going to bring size, and they're going to bring excellent guard play. Duke Dean, Montgomery, those are two of the best in the Valley. Might be the best backcourt in the Valley. And again, with Hannah, the ability he has to stretch the floor, I said this when Drake was playing him. How do you guard that guy? You have a guy built like a, power forward / center at the 3-point line, dribbling like a guard and has speed like a guard and can move around players and has the athleticism. He's really a stretch 5 player, it feels like. So you have Hannah, you have the best backcourt in the Valley, going up against an Indiana State team that has been a great story. I really like following this team, and I think it's good for the Valley when they're playing good. But outside of senior guard Samaj Teal, you know what he is going to do. He just needs more help from his starters. He needs help from sophomore in Camp Wagner, who brings size, but hasn't really done much lately. And you need the role player in Jaden Daughtry, the sophomore forward, who has put up 23 plus in 3 of the last 5, to continue to do that, but on a bigger scale almost. And it's hard to ask for a role player who's putting up 20 plus to do it on a bigger scale. But going up against Bradley, you need everyone. And that's what we saw from Drake. Drake put up 40 plus points off of their bench. Indiana State's going to need to do the same against a really good Bradley team. And tighten up on defense on the perimeter, because that was another big reason we saw Drake take down Bradley, is they were just able to cause headaches on the perimeter in the second half. First half, Bradley was, they were making it look easy to shoot the 3 ball over Drake. Second half, Drake tightened up. Bradley is going to need to do the same and kind of take Duke Dean out of it. That's easier said than done. Take one of those 2 guards. One of them is going to have a good game, because it is nearly impossible to stop both. But I think if you're going to stop one, it's Duke Dean, because just his speed and his playmaking ability rivals, I think, Montgomery's. Montgomery's a really talented player, but Duke Dean has just been incredible all season long. And in Bradley's 3 toughest games, Missouri State, Duke Dean only had 5 points, and against Drake, they really held him as well. So you have a rematch of the best game of the regular season so far with Indiana State at Bradley. That game at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus as well. Big day for the Missouri Valley. Big day for Drake. They take on Illinois State at 8 o'clock. You can watch that game on ESPN Plus. Also listen to it on, the Varsity app, which is free, where you can listen to Michael Admire on the call as well. And just follow along. Media Row Pod for coaches' interviews after the game, player interviews, because, the best part of what we do here at Media Row is not every Drake game you get the TV crew. And tonight is going to be one of those stories, because everyone and their mother is going to be up in Ames. And I understand why. I'm about to break down that game, and it's one of those few moments where I may have the computer up, having that game on as well, watching the Drake game too. But so we are able to get these player interviews and coaches interviews, and we're one of the few outlets right now for Drake fans to do that. And I wear that as a badge of honor. So make sure to follow along, like, comment, subscribe, and do that while you're getting ready to watch a top 10 battle. Let's break down the biggest game, I think, in the country of the night. Number 9 Kansas on the road at number 2 Iowa State. I covered this game last year, and it was one of the coolest environments I've seen. I've been to a lot of Hilton games, but last year covering it for KASI, you had Keyshawn Gilbert going off. You had Trey King going off. There's just something different when you see Iowa State and Kansas tip off against each other. There's a different vibe. And tonight is going to be no different. You had students camping out in the freezing cold all week long, setting up for this moment. I think you have Jay Billis and Schulman on the call too for ESPN, which is fantastic. I think that's the best college basketball broadcasting duo, in my opinion. I've always loved Jay Billis. And what broadcasters, what fans are going to get is a coaching masterclass. The two things, though, I'm going to look for from the Cyclones come down to this. Iowa State must be able to force turnovers from a Kansas Jayhawk team that doesn't typically turn over the ball. They are first in the Big 12 in assist to turnover ratio, making them 11th in the nation in assist to turnover ratio. And the Cyclones' opponents, they have averaged 17 turnovers a game, and that puts Iowa State first in the Big 12. And finally, it's going to come down to, Iowa State, it's mostly going to be guard play. Kansas has a couple of really good guards, as they always do. But when you go up against Hunter Dickinson, who is the best big man in the country, you have to be able to play your best defensive game from your bigs. Need it from Jefferson and need it from Jackson tonight on the defensive end. They also need to be able to be aggressive on the offensive side too. But it really comes down to the defensive end from there. You have Dickinson, second in the Big 12, nearly 18 points a game. First in rebounds, nearly 11 a game. And Iowa State was able to take down Kansas in Hilton last year because of good guard play, because of being able to force turnovers. But a huge part was getting production from the bigs on both the offensive and defensive side. Trey King last year, I think, put up his career high in threes with making 4 or 5 threes on his way to putting up 21 points. And then you had Hassan Ward, who was always talented defensively. Jones, who was really good defensively too. So it's going to really come down to how Jefferson and Jackson are able to try to contain. You're not going to be able to stop Dickinson. Last year, Dickinson put up 20 points. You're not going to be able to stop him. But if you're able to just make things a little uncomfortable for him, cause him to turn over the ball once or twice, just give your offense a few extra possessions, things look really good for Iowa State. And plus, this team just has a legitimate chance to go the whole way. I love the way they play defense. I love how their offense isn't lacking from it. I love how Gilbert has been really efficient this year. And this is just the best offensive team TJ Otzelberger has had. And it's going to be exciting what Bill Self has drawn up to try to compete against the number 2 team in the country. Number 9 against number 2 in Hilton. Couldn't ask for better. And I think that game tips off at 6 o'clock too. So you'll have a full slate. 6 o'clock, Iowa State, Kansas, and then go straight into Drake taking on Illinois State as well at 8 o'clock. So big show today. I know we went through that fairly fast, but recording this a little earlier today because of, just had to get a few things done. Some big news coming up that I'm really excited to share about with everyone. So just getting it all out there and excited to keep this rolling. And 2025 is going to be the year of Media Row. I keep saying it, speak it into existence. But I'll be at the Drake Illinois State game tonight at 8 o'clock. If you're going, come down, say hi. I'm always there on the press row near where Larry Morgan and Adam Emanecker usually are sitting. So make sure if you see me, say hi. I'm always looking to meet new people and talk to everyone, especially if they're a Drake Bulldog fan, because it just feels like a tight-knit group. So if you're there, say hi, and make sure to continue to follow along, because tomorrow we'll have recaps of the games, player interviews, coaches interviews, as well as previewing the Drake women's game against Belmont, which is a big week for Allison Pullman. Belmont, Murray State this week, and those are two really talented teams in the Valley right now. But if Drake gets past that, the women put some pressure on the rest of the Valley. So tomorrow we'll be here at 2 o'clock as usual. Friday, be here at 2 o'clock as usual. And we'll get you ready and set as we're almost here to the end of the week, almost here for the weekend. And slowly but surely, you'll blink an eye and it'll be March, is what it feels like. So thank you guys so much for joining along. Make sure to follow on all social media platforms, and make sure to give us a like and subscribe. So thank you guys. See you guys again tomorrow at 2.